At the tone, please record your message. When you have finished recording, you may hang up or press 1 for more options.
Steven, I drove a $350,000 Lamborghini today. The Tesla Model Y. It's better pickup. It's, a lot less expensive. But I never drove a Lamborghini. They were like, so I was giving my nephew, he loves Lamborghinis. So we got into the Lamborghini place and they gave him a ride. And then they're like, who wants to drive? And I was like, I'll drive. I'll drive. Actually, I didn't. My brother didn't have his license, but I did. But I didn't have my glasses, but I drove anyway. Can you imagine me driving a $350,000 car without my glasses? But I did it, and we got home safe.
Steven, was it you who was saying that I was buying a Lambo a couple weeks ago?
Because you did, right?
No, I didn't buy a freaking Lambo. You just made that up out of nowhere.
Ferrari or Porsche? I can't recall.
Neither. But neither. Sorry, people. Like I posted that Countach, whatever the hell they call it, a Countach, the white car, the white Lamborghini that I posted.
Oh,
that is an homage. That is an homage to the one from the 80s, and it turns out there's only 112 of these made, and I don't own any of them.
And I own it.
I don't own any of them. No, it cost $2.6 million.
That's insane. Insane to have a car that costs that amount of money.
I could buy it, but the thing is,
there it is.
I'd have to sell quite a bit to buy it, like multiple properties to do it.
I definitely can't with 12%. I'll tell you that.
No, you can't. But the thing is, with a car like that, there's only 112, should only go up in value because the wealthy or super wealthy, and anybody buying that is just buying it. Well, the whole thing. So I went to the Lambo dealership. Why did I go to Lamborghini of Philadelphia?
Do you think they have, by the way, like a lot of people coming in daily? I mean, not many people can afford a Lambo.
No, but when they do come in, so celebrities call.
Sure.
And they send people in to grab a car.
I
don't
question,
even look.
like, what's the daily, duties of someone working at the Lambo dealership? Are they just sitting there all day?
It's a lot of emails. It really is. It's a lot of outreach, a lot of emails, because basically they have a large inventory of used. The reason they have a large inventory of used cars is because you can't get new Lamborghinis. They're sold out till like 25 or 26.
Huh. Wow.
Because it's a limited thing. It's like buying a Chanel bag or buying a Louis Vuitton bag. They only make so many of them because they want to keep up.
They're probably custom orders, if I had to guess, right?
They are custom orders. All the Lambos are custom orders.
Yeah.
But the thing is, they limit the amount they make because it's supply and demand. It becomes, there's less of them available, which means they should sell out of all of them, and it just makes people want them. And so they said they're sold out till 25, 26 on a new one. It's like 3-4 years away until you can get a new one.
Wow.
You can have it designed and you can have all of that done.
They don't have like normal annual models, like 2023 model, 2024. Is it just like we just make the same car over and over?
Well, no, they have different versions of the car.
Gotcha.
So look, let me just say this. I am not a car person. I don't know shit about cars. I don't know torque. I don't know shit. I don't care. So don't look at me like people out there thinking I'm
fast.
Right. I don't care, but I like the sales and the idea of it. So there's different versions of the car. There could be 4 or 5 different styles. The Countach, the Urus, which is the SUV version.
Okay.
And there's a whole bunch of different ones. I don't know. I'm not even going to look them up right now. But sir, they even had an off-roading Lamborghini where they put big fat tires on it.
Wow.
And use it for off-roading. Look, it's just,
I know you mentioned you were in like an SUV Lambo too. I didn't even know they even made an SUV.
They do. It's about $350,000.
Oh, chump change for you.
So let me go back to the reason we were there. The reason we were there is we met these people that have, a Lamborghini, Porsche, Ferrari, McLaren. Yeah, they have a McLaren dealership. They have
So did you meet these people
Maserati.
when you bought the Lambo last time?
No, I didn't. And Maserati. So we met them at the car show one year. Actually, over the last 2 years, I've met them, and they're like, "Oh, come take a look." And they're like, "Hey, if you ever want to do anything, you need to test something out, or you just want to come out, give us a call."
It's great.
And so my nephew, who's 8, has taken a liking to going on YouTube and watching videos about Lamborghinis. So
really?
He knows like what the different modes are and whatever. So I called them and I'm like, "Can I bring my nephew out? He's got off from school on Tuesday for in-service day." Oh, that's because it was election day.
That's funny. I didn't realize he was like obsessed with with Lambos. I just thought it was just a cool idea to bring your nephew along. That's great.
He's been looking up the information and watching YouTube videos to do it.
Wow.
So, my brother surprised him, right? We surprised him with it. He thought he was making deliveries with my brother, which honestly, I was just thinking reminds me of when I was off from school and made deliveries with my dad.
I mean, it's not often when you can see a Lambo in person, you know?
No, I never did. I've never driven one until yesterday.
I've only seen a handful for sure.
So he was super excited to be there. He knew the different cars. He knew how they worked.
It's awesome.
But it actually turned out well because when I first set it up, I didn't have any cameras to test. And in this case, the new Canon Vlog V10 came out, and I'm like, well, I might as well take this along for the journey and test it out, shooting the cars and stuff. How did it look and sound? Because you saw the footage.
So it's what you expect out of like a $430 camera. You know, it's nothing great. It's a 1-inch sensor. The IBIS, which it lacks, the digital IS, I should say, is not the best, but it's expected. Audio wasn't terrible, I will say. You know, it has that dual microphone capsule on the top. I'm more curious how it felt to you, like from a form factor, because it's such a different style camera. You know, it's like a flip camera from back in the day.
Yeah, when you're holding it and using it, it's fine. You don't
Does
rest
it feel
your
like
finger
a phone
on the
though, or can it fit in your pocket easily? Because it's a thick boy.
Well, the problem is, why would it doesn't have a lens cap?
So I saw Kai Wang's video, and they did sell an accessory as a lens cap. I think Small Rig made it in Europe. I don't know if America sells it with the camera.
That's bullshit.
Though.
That's stupid.
Now, think about it. Your phone has lenses. You don't have a lens cap on those.
No, but this isn't Gorilla Glue. This seems like more plasticky.
Well, I know you mentioned you already thought you scratched it or something, right?
No, I didn't scratch it. It would get touched in my bag. I put it in my bag. Like, I put it in my bag. I'm like, well, this is how they're selling it. This is how I want to use it. So I put it in my bag. If I put it in my pocket, it probably would get, like, I don't want to touch it.
What's like the IP rating on that? Like, is it waterproof? Is it
splash-proof? This isn't waterproof
because
at
think about
all.
your new phone. Like, you could throw a phone in like the toilet and it's fine these days.
This isn't waterproof at all. It's
my
fine
big
to
thing
shoot
is like,
with.
why have this over a phone? If you already have a phone that shoots great video, and you know phones are like $1,000 these days for an iPhone, do you really need this?
Well, the 1-inch sensor is probably what you're getting, which is different.
Sure.
This is super easy to carry around. I did see someone say, they tweeted at Canon and said, well, what if you want a kickstand to shoot vertical? Like, how do you like shooting vertical video? And Canon's reply was, turn it sideways. Like, that's a stupid reply.
Well, so again, back to Kai Wang's video when he had the hands-on with it with the Small Rig cage. The cage actually did have quarter 20, inputs on both sides, which is how the camera, by the way, should have had it. I don't think a lot of people are going to be buying this cage for a $430 camera.
No, so for me, it's not even that. I don't worry about that. No, the cage is stupid. Yes, you have a quarter thing on the bottom. The way that the Canon showed it is that you would have to turn it sideways and put the tripod-y thing on the side and then rotate it, which is stupid. The fact that it has this kickstand, the kickstand is pretty cool.
But the kickstand should rotate, right? Is that what you're saying?
The kickstand should be available for vertical, for when you turn the camera sideways.
Yep.
Or they should. I mean, I like shooting horizontally,
especially if they're going after social media apps. Instagram stories, Reels, Shorts, TikTok videos, all of that. They're all vertical,
right? And so it should have had a kickstand that also doubled on the side to stick it back and turn it forward so that you can do vertical. I think that's a miss there. I think the low light quality is obviously garbage. It looks super compressed and it looks terrible like that.
I will say, though, when it did find a face, there was actually some decent depth in the video. I was surprised because, you're dealing with a 19mm equivalent lens on a 1-inch sensor body. You would think almost everything's going to be in focus, and is there really need for like a face detection or whatever it may be? It's almost like infinity focus. But there was actually some depth, which is nice because you're dealing with the iPhones now that have that fake cinematic bokeh when you're shooting in the 4K mode or whatever.
Can I talk about the Lambo I bought now?
Sure.
I didn't buy it. I didn't buy that car. We weren't allowed in that car because
did you drive in the white one?
No, someone owns that. That's someone else's. It's there on display because they did a grand opening. So the Lambo people told me that people were coming in from 4 or 5 hours just to get pictures with that car.
Oh, wow.
Because there's only 112 ever going to be made.
Surprised they even let you near it.
Yeah, and they let Jace near it too. And
did he touch it?
No, he was good. You saw on the video. I gave him some ground rules before he went in. Like, you can go and sit in any car
except
but the white one. But the white one. So the funny thing is, so the other week I was at my brother's house, and my niece and nephew were watching YouTube videos on their laptops, and I asked Jace what he was looking at, and he's like, "Oh, I'm watching car videos," and I'm like, "Can I show you something?" And I hit the Sprog, the settings, and I went to 2x speed. I'm like, if it's ever going too slow, just go to 2x speed.
But do you want to teach him that young?
I do. And he's like, show me again, but do it slowly. And I'm like,
do that 1x speed when you show me.
So I showed him, and so I don't know if he's doing it. But the funny thing was, he came outside and he asked my brother, he brought the laptop, and he goes, Daddy, what does this word mean? Like, what does this word say? So he didn't know what the word was. And it was accident. He couldn't say accident for whatever reason.
Okay.
He couldn't read it because it's ACCIDNT, right?
It's a weird word. I guess when you look at it,
it's another dumb, weird word. And so my brother told him what it was. And I said, all right, Jace, let me show you something. I'm like, do you have Google on that thing? So he pulls up Google. He hits it's a preset, and he pulls up Google. I'm like, okay, in the type bar, in the search bar, we're gonna type this word, ACCIDNT, or you could copy and paste it. Then hit enter, and then you see that blue horn button. Hit that, and then it says accident. Right? And I'm like, so now if you don't know a word, Google will tell it to you, and then you can read the definition but down below. And he was like, oh.
I, to this day, use that feature all the time. It's great.
Yeah. So I'm always looking up things because I can't spell, so I want to know that if the word that I'm trying to spell is the word that I'm spelling
Not so
properly.
much for the definition, but more for the proper spelling, yeah.
Exactly. So anyway.
So again, back to the whole 2x speed thing. You don't think that's dangerous teaching a kid that young when their attention span's already short?
No, because that's not about short attention span. I actually heard the other day on a podcast that the brain is capable of understanding and absorbing 800 words a minute.
Well, sure.
But
my point is, will he now be able to sit through an hour-long video? Like a movie without being fidgety and...
Yeah. You are better focused when you're listening to it faster.
I'm not saying any of that.
I'm talking about educational stuff. I'm not talking about movies or TV shows.
Sure, but will he want to have everything in 2x speed at that point?
I don't know. We'll find out.
Including real life is my question.
Look, I tried watching a video the other day. Matty Chapoya bought a $90,000 camera, right? He bought a $90,000 whatever the hell that camera is, $90,000. And I'm watching in 2x speed. I'm like, oh, this sounds normal. And I slowed it down to normal speed, and it was like listening to something moving like this.
So, no, I agree. I'm also kind of the same way. I watch a lot of, especially tutorials in 2x speed, and it depends how fast the speaker is speaking. Now, someone like you, who already naturally speaks very fast, I'm curious what the analytics are behind people watching our videos. Like, is everyone watching at 2x speed? Is it just normal speed? Because you're already speaking pretty fast.
I am.
Because I'll watch you at like 1.5, but 2x is a little too fast for someone like you.
For listening to me?
When I'm playing back the edit, for example, like I want to make sure I don't mess up the edit, and I'm playing back the export or something like that.
Yeah, what's so weird is I've trained myself to listen. I listen at 2x. I even had my friend over. My friend over the other day, we were watching MKBHD did a video with the new Dyson headphones and personal air purifier thing. It was 18 minutes long. I'm like, I don't need to sit through 18 minutes of this, but I'll sit through like 6 because I'm going to skip a few things, but I'll listen at 2x. So she has this thing like, oh, I can't listen to it at 2x. But she stood there and she listened and she watched. And then after it was done, I'm like, did your brain start to understand it? And she's like, well, yeah, actually it did. Because she's someone who's like, I can't pay attention, I can't do this. And then she did, because she has ADHD, but she was then able to pay attention to it because your brain is now consumed. It's not able, because it's going so fast, the words, it's not able to think about other stuff and get distracted. There's less distractions when you're listening to it because you're focused on it moving that fast.
Yeah. I just do it just to make the video shorter if I'm limited on time or something like that. But
there's that.
I'm pretty good with paying attention even at 1x speed for the most part. But no, I totally get people that have ADHD or ADD and they need to have something filter out the outside noises or whatever else it may be. But back to the overall 2x speed thing, I feel like there's a lot of people that don't know about it too. I'm always surprised when people are like, wait, you can fast forward the video? I'm like, yeah, you never did that? So again, I really am curious how many of our viewers do watch the videos in 2x speed or even know about it. Because YouTube does a good job hiding those controls. Yeah. When you're watching like from mobile or something like that.
So anyway, this is RAWtalk episode 51. By the way, it's almost a full year of doing these. Yes. I guess next week will be exactly a year because we didn't skip anything. You skipped two.
I skipped.
Like, knock on wood, we haven't skipped anything there.
Yep.
But anyway, I just wanted to say that. But to round out the Lamborghini thing, it was cool to be able to take my nephew there and to think that there's a memory that he got there. They gave him some stuff.
Oh, he's going to remember that forever, man. That's huge. Awesome.
They gave him like a Lego Lamborghini.
Really?
They gave him a matchbox.
My dad would love that. He's obsessed with Lego.
It's a Lego Lamborghini. He got a hat. He got a shirt. He's like, my friend is going to be so jealous. He's probably going to wear it to school today. I didn't get to mention. He's going to be
the new cool kid in school.
So we got to ride in the Urus, the SUV version. Beautiful black leather, $350,000 SUV.
Was it red leather though?
It was red leather.
What car was that? Red, right?
Oh, yeah, that was it.
It was a sexy looking car.
It was a sexy looking car. It sounded sexy too. So they're driving us around. My brother's in the front. Jace is in the back seat. I'm filming with the Canon vlogging camera, and the guy pulls over into a gas station for a second. He goes, "Does anybody want to drive?" And my brother would have loved to have driven, but he's like, "I just need a driver's license." For whatever reason, my brother left his driver's license in his van. I always have it in my pocket.
I do too.
I'm like, I have mine, but I didn't bring my glasses.
Wait, so both of you didn't get to drive it?
I drove it anyway without my glasses.
Oh, you're like blind without your glasses.
Yeah, you can't see without his glasses.
Seriously, you can't.
I give Jace the Canon camera so he can film, because I'm like, well, here, like if an 8-year-old can do it, then that's a good sign. I told him what to do. He filmed with it.
Well, so again, there's only one button on there, right? On the front, it's just record and that's it?
Record on the front, but there's 1, 2, 3, 4. There's a whole shit ton of buttons on the back.
It still has the Canon menu, correct? You can kind of, like, you could still set it to like 4K 30 or whatever it may be.
Yeah, you have the Canon menu, but look at how small it is. It's very difficult for me
it only
to
has
see
4 settings in the wrench menu. The red menu probably only has like 5. Where you get the red something like the R5, it's got 15 freaking options.
It's super limited, but it's also super small. It's hard to see. They kind of want you to connect it to your phone, which I haven't actually done with the Canon Connect app yet.
But then just use your phone. Like if you're, I just don't know if.
Yeah, but the
it's 1-inch sensor,
1-inch sensor is probably going to be better. We'll see what happens. But back to me driving the car. I was scared shitless to drive this car. I was also scared to drive my Tesla when I first got it. I was, not scared to drive it, but I was nervous because it was new. But then after about a week, you get used to the quirks and the things like that. But driving this Urus was like, oh my God, like it growls, it screams, it makes engine noises, and it was super responsive. I mean, it's a beautiful car.
So if you crashed it, is that on you or is that on them?
Yeah, they have insurance for that stuff.
Okay.
I don't know. I was being very careful. Yeah. I was not going over speed limits, really. I was not going too fast.
Because in a Lambo, you almost want to drive fast.
I did. I wanted to, but I wasn't going to do it.
Yeah.
And then honestly, when I got back into my Tesla and drove home, I'm like, well, this drives better. It was just faster. Like literally, it's like you will outrun that car.
Well, the Lambo's not electric, is it?
No, but they have some future. They plan to go electric by 2030. They're going to do hybrid. They have a new thing. I'm not even going to talk about it.
The Tesla pickup is probably insane compared to that.
Yeah, the Tesla pickup is absolutely insane. Yeah. It will beat it every time. So should we move on?
Sure. But again, I think that's such a great moment in Jace's life. I think he's going to remember that forever. I remember certain things from when I was 5, 6 years old, and it was moments like that. So that's cool. Cool that you did that.
Yeah. I didn't add something to the list because I didn't want you to read it before I did it. And I know you love surprises.
Great.
But CNN did an article that says top baby names of last year were ... So I think it's time to read the most popular names to see if any of them are on your list.
Letitia?
All right,
what? Letitia?
How about my Letitia? Letitia, good one. My driver yesterday was Florida. Her name was Florida, but I didn't know if it was going to be Florida. So I asked her, Do you go by Flo? And then someone was like, it could also be Florida. And I was like,
that's a good point too.
Oh, you're true. All right, let's read this article real fast. The Social Security Administration has released the 20 most popular baby names of last year, and the results are less than original. The results are near identical to the 2021 rankings, with only one new name making an appearance. Olivia.
Okay.
Emma and Charlotte are still the top 3 female names, and Liam, Noah, and Oliver maintain their position in the top male names.
Interesting.
There were no new additions to the top 10 names, though a few of them switched places in rankings, and the newest name on the list is Latita. Anyway,
what other names are on there?
The 10 female names saw only one new entry, Luna. Short for lunatic, the Latin word for moon. Coincidentally, it's also the most popular name for female dogs, per the American Kennel Club. It bumped Harper, which held the 10th spot last year.
Harper's a big one, yeah. I don't think you're going to see a lot of the classic names anymore moving forward, like Steven or Jared.
Let's start with the top 10 baby boy names, because you're having a cis female, which means they're born a female at birth and then can change from there however they see fit.
Correct.
Top 10 baby. Yeah, I had to, dude, when I Googled, I didn't know what someone's like, you're just a cis male. I'm like, what the fuck does that even mean?
And I finally Googled it.
It means that when I was born, I had the male genitalia or something.
And you still identify as a male.
Right?
Right?
Something like that. Yes, I'm a male. Don't call me a cis male. Please don't call me a cis male.
Just call you male. I actually hate at the end of the day.
I think that's stupid. Okay, anyway. Top 10 baby boy names. So let's start from the bottom. Number 10, Theodore. 9,
Teddy.
Benjamin. Lucas. Henry. William. Elijah. James. Oliver. Noah. And Liam.
Wow. Actually, some of them are pretty classic names.
Those names suck.
Benjamin and Theodore, really?
I like Theodore. Well, Teddy and Benjamin is Ben.
I actually really like those names too. I'm just surprised that they're popular names.
If I have a kid, they're not getting named Benjamin Franklin Polin because I'm JP, my brother's JP, his kids are actually both JPs. Top 10 baby girl names. Are you ready, Steven?
All right, hit me with them.
God, do you have a name? Did you guys choose a name?
We actually did pick a name. I'm not revealing it on here until she's born.
Did you get it from the swiping app or somewhere else?
We actually did not. This is just something we thought of on our own.
Exactly. It's stupid. I bet you it has something to do with Disney.
No, it does not.
It doesn't?
No. I would have shot that idea down right away if it did.
I actually think number 6 on this list is the name that you picked.
Okay. Hit me with it.
10, Luna. 9, Evelyn. 8, Mia. 7, Ava. I'm skipping 6 right now. 5, Sophia. 4, Amelia. 3, Charlotte. 2, Emma. 1, Olivia.
So what's 6?
Isabella.
None of those names are her name.
Okay, Isabella was close, though.
Yeah, none of those names are what we named her.
Is Isabella close?
Not at all.
Not at all.
Not at all.
Is it Shaquifa or Jemima?
Damn it. Yes.
eBay?
No, what was the one we were looking up?
Tetris?
Freaking
Letitia?
Weird names.
Letitia,
yeah.
Letitia? I think it's Letitia, but
it's
spelled
definitely
like Latita.
Letitia, yes.
Shit, but I would have read it as Latita.
I did read it as that.
All right, so now that's out of the way. I just thought that would be fun to go over your baby naming.
Yeah, we have a full name. We got middle name and everything, so we are set.
Not Sophia. LaQuanda, Kwanzaa, Eckert.
Stop. You're guessing the right names.
All right. So let's move on to this movie, which I think is a super good movie that you guys should watch.
Yes.
I didn't actually go to the theater to watch it. It's not a movie that you need to.
Wait, is it in theaters?
It was in theaters first.
Oh. I thought it just came to Amazon Prime and that it was a Prime produced movie.
No, it was out of theater. It was already in theaters.
Oh, I actually probably would have went to the theaters if I knew that.
Yeah, well, then you didn't know it. But the movie we're talking about is Air. It's the story of Sonny, basically Nike getting Michael Jordan, and you've got Matt Damon and Ben Affleck are the main. Matt Damon. So they basically recount the story of how Michael Jordan ended up at Nike. And the thing is, I knew the story firsthand from Coach George Raveling, and many of you who have listened maybe to that podcast when I did a Daily Fro with Coach Raveling a couple years ago would have heard the recounting of the story that he had a pivotal role in bringing Michael Jordan to Nike. I'm not going to give away the movie. I mean, it's all there, but I don't want to go through because I think you'll find the story fascinating. But there is a section like in the first 25 minutes where Coach Raveling ends up in the movie, and I talked to Coach a couple weeks ago, and it was a fantastic movie. It was on point. He's like, some of the things that they had, part of his story was not exactly perfect, but it wasn't far off. And
was the bar scene pretty right though, or? I don't know
that they met at the bar. That seems like
the pivotal moment, if I had to guess.
Well, they probably just... I don't know where they met. I don't know that he flew out and met him. I don't know if that actually happened.
Okay.
But I know that the story that he tells is a legitimate story. We're talking about Coach Raveling tells a story about going to the March on Washington in 1963 where Dr. Martin Luther King was giving a speech, and he talks about the speech. He talks about what happens after. So in the movie, it's not accurate to. I mean, it's damn close. 98% close.
How he ended up there is what you're saying.
How he ended up there is true, but how he ended up with the thing he ends up with, which I'm not going to give away right now because I want us to run the audio from the interview where Coach Raveling is telling us about how he ended up in Washington, D.C. for that event and what happened at the end of that event. Because when you watch the movie, if you haven't watched it yet, you're gonna watch this and you're gonna be like, damn, that's a cool story because I heard it right from Coach and it's pretty close. And if you watch the movie, you're gonna listen to this and be like, oh, okay, I totally get it. So Steven.
Yes.
Yeah, cue up Coach Raveling from a few years ago and let it rip.
Let's go.
All right, Coach. Thank you for doing the project. So I read an article about you in 1963 at the marches in Washington, D.C. Can you talk about the story of how you came upon the famous speech?
Well, what happened was A. Philip Randolph and Byron Rustin and Martin Luther King and a bunch of civil rights workers had decided that they were going to have a march on Washington, and the march was for jobs and equality. And so as this was going to, as it turned out to be, the largest gathering of black people in the history of America in a single geographic location. And so the closer it came to the March on Washington, one of my best friends at the time, his name was Warren Wilson, and his dad was a very prominent dentist in Wilmington, Delaware. And so I was having dinner that Wednesday night at their house, and it was on television about the march. And so Dr. Wilson asked us if we were going to go, and we said no. I had already graduated from Villanova at that time. And so he asked us why not, and we said, well, we didn't have any money or way to get there. So he said, well, I think it's going to be a historic thing. You need to be there. And so he had two cars, so he said, I'll give you the use of the car and give you the money to go down. So that Friday we drove down there and found a hotel room, and the night before we drove down just to make sure we knew how to get there. And when we were walking around the monument grounds, we ran into a guy, and he said, are you guys coming tomorrow? In the conversation, we said yes. And he said, he looked at us, we were both 6'4", so he said, well, would you guys want to volunteer? And we said, for what? He said, to be security guards. And so we said, yeah, we'll volunteer. And so he said, okay, come down tomorrow, we'll meet you at 9. So we had gotten up early. We got down there about 8:15. We ran into him, and he said, he looked at us again, and he said, we're going to need double the security that we thought we were going to need, especially up at the podium. And so we were going to assign you guys to be security people up at the podium. And so they had this plan for security of the people up on the dais, and if a demonstration broke out, how to get them off back through the back way of the Lincoln Memorial. Once the day started around 9 o'clock in the morning with the speakers, and they went all day, and King was the last speaker, and so he gave his speech. And actually, the interesting part about it is the "I Have a Dream" part was not part of the original speech. Every speaker had to submit their speech in advance, and they didn't want any exclamatory speeches that were going to get the crowd all riled up in that. And so James Baldwin, he wouldn't. They recommended changes. Baldwin wouldn't do it, so he wouldn't allow him to speak. And John Lewis, they made him change his about 8 or 9 times. And so the speech that King submitted, he delivered until he got to about 3/4 of the way toward the end, and Mahalia Jackson, who was sitting up on the dais, she had been with Martin Luther King at some of his other rallies in Selma and in Detroit. She had heard him do the "I Have a Dream" part, and it became one of her favorites. And so just as he gets toward the close of the speech, she says to him, "Tell him about the dream, Martin. Tell him about the dream." And so, being the last speaker, everybody was held to 5 minutes, but he was the only one who exceeded it. So he ad-libbed the "I Have a Dream" part in it, really. And if the original speech had no title. So what happened when it was over? Obviously, it captured the passion and imagination of everybody. And so when it was over, he started to fold the speech, and so the security were to close in, and so that he was well protected. And so I ended up right to his left, so as he was folding that, for some reason I have everybody said, "Well, what, did you have a plan?" No, I just said, "Dr. King, can I have that copy of the speech?" And he turned and handed it to me. And so just as he did, the rabbi was doing the benediction. He said to Dr. King, "Oh, that's the greatest speech I ever heard." So King's attention shifted to him. But that was 50 years ago. No one knew that the speech was going to take on the historic context that it did. So when it was over, the civil rights leaders went over to the White House to meet with the president. And when they walked in the Oval Office, President Kennedy said to Dr. King, he said, "Dr. King, I loved your 'I Have a Dream' speech." So the media picked it up and put the title "I Have a Dream" speech. But if you saw the original speech, it was not, the "I Have a Dream" part was not part of the formal text. And you can see, as you listen to the video, the audio, you can follow King right along on his prepared text, and then he gets to this one point where he ad-libs that in, and then he goes back and closes out the speech the way he had it written. And so I had the speech for over 30 years. No one, even my wife, didn't even know. When I was a senior at Villanova, I played in the East-West All-Star game in Kansas City, and they took us out to meet President Truman in Independence, Missouri, and he gave us 2 books that he had written on his presidency, and in there he wrote to each of us his autograph, and mine just says "To George A. Traveling" from Harry S. Truman, and it has the date in it. So I put the speech inside of one of the books because I knew I'd never throw those books, the Truman books, away, because how many people can say they have a personal autograph book from a president? And so it stayed in there for over 30 years. If you saw the speech, you can still see the crease marks where it's been folded for so many years. And it wasn't until legislation was passed and we had the Martin Luther King holiday in that, and then a good friend of mine, Digger Phelps, knew that I had the speech, and he was working for ESPN at the time. And then when I went to Iowa as the head coach, the Cedar Rapids paper, most of the papers then had a Sunday magazine section that came with the newspaper. So they sent a reporter down to do a story on me, and in doing the interview, he just lucked up and said, "Were you ever involved in the civil rights movement?" And I said, "What kind?" And he said, "Well, what do you mean?" And I explained to him about the speech, and then when he found out I had it, he said, "Well, yeah, where is it?" And I had only been in Iowa for a couple of weeks, and I just bought a home, and I hadn't unpacked all the boxes. So I told him it was down in the basement somewhere in a box, and we went down and found it. So as a result, once he found out I had the speech, he said, "Oh, can I call my editor and get a photographer down here?" So that was the first public utterance that I even had the speech. And then a couple years later, Digger Phelps mentioned it on ESPN. Over the years, once it was placed in its historic context, one time Malcolm, in a speech, Malcolm X said that history is best situated to record all man's deeds. And so my interpretation of that is that history ultimately will put things in their rightful perspective. And so it took 50 years, but and now the speech has become one of the more prominent speeches perhaps in the history of America. But for the greater part of those 50 years, it just went unrecognized, and no one even knew that I had the speech. And so it was just one of those situations that once again to be in the right place at the right time.
So that's directly from Coach Raveling right there.
Wow.
He ended up with the "I Have a Dream" speech.
Ooh, what a relic, man.
Piece of paper.
Jesus.
Though it actually doesn't say "I have a dream" in that speech on the paper. It actually doesn't say that. Most people don't know that. I didn't know that. I thought
So that part of the movie was factual then. I also didn't realize if they were making that up or not.
No, Dr. King went off script.
Wow.
And I'll tell you what happened. I was reading the People's History of the United States, and it talks about the March on Washington in 1963. JFK is president. RFK is whatever the hell RFK is like the main advisor. But all of these, there was going to be African Americans coming to Washington, D.C., and it was a very tumultuous time for civil rights.
Sure.
There was no civil rights amendment, even though the Emancipation Proclamation was signed 150 freaking years ago. Yep. So what ends up happening, and most people don't really know it, is that the JFK and the government kind of wanted to appease all of these people because they knew if they didn't, there might be a major issue. So they placated them and said, there won't be a problem here. You can do this here and you can do that there. And so they thought that that would be the best thing to do to make sure there was no riots and make it feel like, oh, we're accepting and whatnot.
And
so
that's another civil war. You never know.
It could have been damaging, to say the least. But basically they said they didn't want to rile up the crowd. And so that's why James Baldwin didn't speak there. I don't know if you know of James Baldwin, but James Baldwin is an incredible human being, and just got lambasted here because he's an African American guy. He was outspoken and he's educated. Like all the things that the racist people look at, it's like if you ever hear someone say they are a well-spoken black person, that is a form of racism.
Sure.
The reason it's a form of racism is because you're inferring that
all black
people can't be well-spoken.
Exactly.
And that's just a terrible thing to say. I think I've said it before. I think I said it when Todd was around, and I never understood why, because it's just something that I heard in the past, and I didn't get it. We were talking about someone that I met, and I'm like, he's very well spoken. And Todd corrected me. Now, Todd's a white guy. Todd married an African American woman, and he's just like, you can't say that. And I didn't understand why, and he explained it, and I was like, oh, Jesus Christ.
Yeah.
Well, that makes total sense. And it's all about education. I'm like, Jesus Christ, that's horrible. And that's a terrible thing to say.
Obviously, you didn't mean it that way, but yeah, I know what you're saying.
I didn't mean it, but I can totally understand the underlying issue there because it was pointed out to me.
The perception of what it means, yeah.
And I'll just say straight up, when Black Lives Matter movement was starting, at the beginning, I'm like, but don't all lives matter, right? Like, that's where my brain originally went. But when you start to get educated and understand that there are different class systems here, and being a white person gives you a leg up, it gave you a leg up and gives you a leg up because that's just how it's been. That's not right. You're not saying that all lives don't matter. You're sitting here pointing out the fact that black people should not be just killed for walking down the freaking street.
Of course.
Right? And so you start to understand that and start to take a different mental approach. This is just me being brutally honest. And speaking of that, there was an election here. Yeah, I didn't even talk about this because it's anyway. Bernie and AOC were in town the other day. They were campaigning for Helen Gim, who was running for mayor of Philadelphia. There were like 8 people running for mayor of Philly, which was very difficult.
I would not want that job.
No, and I went out to this event because I wanted to give Bernie the photo books again because last time he didn't get any when he was here. So he got it. I wanted to get AOC a book. I got backstage. I did all my behind the scenes stuff. Photos look fantastic. I'm not really sharing them on public because it just creates such a shitstorm.
What'd you shoot with, R3 or?
I used the R3. No, I used the 28-70. I only used the 28-70. I took a 135. I took an 85. I used the 135 for a couple of pictures. Didn't take the 85-1.2 out of the bag and didn't take the 15-35 out of the bag.
Okay.
But the photos are fantastic. The reason I'm bringing this up, like the whole racism thing, is the woman that ended up winning the race yesterday. I don't think many people thought they were going to win. Parker, she's an African American woman. I was going to vote for any woman. My whole thing was I was voting for a woman over a man, no matter what. I just so happened to like Helen Gim for what she spoke about. But there's a quote here from the new. Well, they're not the new mayor, but generally if you win the Democratic primary for mayor in Philadelphia, you are going to win. Yeah. You're going to win because this is a very blue side of the state. But there was this statement she made, and Parker pledged to stop the sense of lawlessness that is plaguing our city by putting hundreds more officers on the street to engage in community policing. Parker pushed for officers to use every legal tool, including stopping someone when they have just cause and reasonable suspicion. And mind you, she's an African-American woman. She wants to put more police on the street, which we know doesn't work. And when you say you want to stop and frisk, which was in New York that didn't work and was unconstitutional, it doesn't make any sense. You're just basically saying if you're walking down the street with a hood on, you're suspicious. And honestly, people are afraid to say it, but the idea here is that there's a perception that if you're black, you're suspicious. And that's been perpetuated for years. And it shouldn't be that way. You shouldn't be stopped because you're black, right? It's just bullshit. And so I think she has it completely wrong. And my take on the whole thing is, I know I went down the rabbit hole, so I'm going to continue down the rabbit hole. My take is it all starts with education. I don't think any person running should have come out and said, I'm going to take a tougher stance on guns. You're never going to get a tougher stance on guns, but it starts with education. And instead of putting more police officers on the street, take that money and put it into education. Put it into after-school programs. Put it into the arts. Put it into music. Put it into daycare so that women can go to work instead of having to stay home and choose between raising kids all the time and having a career that they can make more money to better their stance. Anyway. You hate when I do that, but
no,
that's where I
agree. I don't hate it at all.
Anyway, I went down that path because
you're preaching to the choir, though. Here, I hear it all the time from you, and I agree.
How did I get onto this topic again?
From air.
Oh, from air. That's right.
Co-traveling.
From co-traveling. Yeah. Then the Todd thing, and then I was just telling
it
you.
Actually kind of makes sense how you got to this point for once. It wasn't a complete 90-degree turn.
Back to air. I thought it was done extremely well.
And you know me, I was a big sneakerhead. I used to collect Jordans. I had literally Jordan 1 through 23. I still have a good amount of them. Even the Jordan 11 Columbia edition for those sneakerheads. You know what I'm talking about. I had all the retro shoes. I was a big fan of that. So for me, that's the main reason I wanted to watch that movie.
Steven, the funny thing is, if you kept all of those shoes, you could have bought a Lambo.
I probably could. I have my one Columbia Edition ones saran wrap still kept in like a temperature controlled room. So one day I'll probably sell them. But I think the carbon fiber on the bottom cracked. So I don't know how much that's going to ding the resale value for them.
I love shoes. I could here are my shoes right now. I don't own a pair of Nikes, by the way. I've never owned a pair of Nikes. They don't fit my feet.
I was always Nike, and then just Converse, like Chuck Taylors for high school and college. They're $40 each. I can buy new ones like once a year. It was great. But yeah. I didn't know that Converse was still such a big shoe company back in the day when Nike was first starting out. I didn't realize the market share that they had.
Oh, well, Converse had the All-Stars, and Converse was the basketball shoe.
Yeah, it makes sense. I thought there was more the basketball shoe in like the 50s, 60s, 70s. I didn't realize it still held that much weight even in the late 80s.
Yeah, it did.
And Adidas, too, they were saying.
Adidas.
Or Adidas, yeah.
Adidas. Well, because Adidas, because Adi and Das, that's how they got
how did
Adidas.
They sound?
German. Adidas. Uns in fucking
I didn't realize Adidas was a German company until watching that.
So they were the brothers Adi and I believe the other brother's name was Das, something like Adidas. They got into a big fight. Their mom got scared. They got into a fight, and one went and started Puma. I believe. And so I'm pretty sure I listened to Shoe Wars, Business Wars, and they had a whole thing on the shoe war and how my Adidas was a big thing in the 80s, and Michael Jordan wanted to go to Adidas. But I heard the story directly from Coach Raveling on what ends up happening. I don't want to. It's not ruining the movie, but you obviously know he ends up at Nike. Sure. But how he gets there is through Coach Raveling suggesting that they make an introduction. Anyway, I'll leave that part out.
Directed by Ben Affleck too, by the way.
It was, and he's really good at doing these movies.
He's playing the Nike CEO, right, and founder?
Yeah, Phil Knight.
That's it, yeah.
I do recommend, if you can listen to a book, Shoe Dogs is a really good book until it kind of just ends abruptly at some point in the 90s. But Shoe Dogs is the book that chronicles the years of Nike starting, and it started as a company called Blue Ribbon, and it was Blue Ribbon whatever, but it talks about how Phil Knight was able to do exactly what he did, and how he was able to import shoes, and how he was able to how a waffle iron changed the history for shoes.
Wow, they would pour the rubber. $46 billion is his net worth.
Well, they would pour the rubber into the waffle iron, and they felt that would give them a better grip on the track. It was literally a waffle iron.
And that too, I didn't realize that Nike was founded from running shoes.
It was all running.
Yeah, it was all.
And the swoosh, they're like, what is a swoosh? And there's like, that's the sound that's made when you run by somebody.
See, in the movie, don't they say he just paid some graphic designer like a couple bucks to make a logo, and that's what she made or something?
Well, yes, that's what she made.
But I didn't think he really had a reason behind what it meant.
Well, that's what the reason became.
Okay, gotcha.
There was the swoosh, the sound that's made when you go by.
Okay, but in the beginning, it was just a random logo. With no
he also didn't like it originally.
That's what he said, yeah.
But they did give her like 500 shares they did give her 500 shares. They did give her a little bit more.
What's that worth today?
Well, today it would be worth quite a lot. What is Nike? Well, I don't know how many times it's split or what, but they did end up taking care of her, I think, pretty much for that. I mean, it's the same thing. Like the Rolling Stones paid $35 for their logo, and that's all they paid for their logo. I mean, it's what it is. Today we just use AI and just say, screw you people, we don't need to pay you. But I do recommend Shoe Dogs. If you listen to audiobooks, you could listen to it. I just love the chronicling of year by year of how they built the business. I kind of didn't like how it just ended at the end, like the book kind of just skirted past all of the major issues they were going through, but child labor and all of that. I think they actually did talk about it, but didn't go into super detail. It's a really good movie. I highly recommend you sit there and watch it for the 2 hours. It's on Amazon Prime.
It's on Prime, and it's included in Prime, right? I don't think you have to pay.
No, but what was weird is I was watching The Red Violin, showing my friend that movie, and it's on Prime, but every 15 minutes there's a fucking commercial.
Oh, it's included with ads.
Why? I'm not going to watch it. Fuck you, asshole.
Well, I'd rather just pay the $4 to rent it without ads.
Exactly.
Personally. Yeah, I usually do that.
But I've seen that movie 73 times, and I was like, this is bullshit. I pay for Prime already. Why am I sitting through ads? So the next thing I want to talk about happened right before we started recording RAWtalk. I got an email from someone about something. I'll be pretty vague about it. It is one of the dumbest questions that you can ask someone, or actually, it's one of the dumbest questions you can answer from a business standpoint. So here's the quote that I'm quoting you from the email. Sorry for the delay. Do you have target pricing from your previous printer that I can check to see if it is comparable to our pricing, please? Are you fucking kidding me? Why would I tell you my pricing on what I was paying for something when I asked you to give me your pricing? Give me your pricing and I will tell you whether or not that is acceptable or not. It's like when you're a photographer and you say, what's your budget? I kind of feel bad asking for people what their budget is, because now you're going to build, you're going to be like, well, if it's super high, I'm going to then try to ask for that, which I think is wrong. You have your value. You have what your pricing is. You tell them what your pricing is. And if they end up agreeing instantly and you could have gotten more, well, then raise your price the next time.
Sure.
But it just feels really bad to ask someone what their pricing is. Like if you're trying to hire someone to say, well, what is your salary target? Well, why? Like, if you're going for a job, I think that's the wrong question to ask, and I don't know that it's ethical. One, I don't think it's ethical, and two, I think it should not be really legal to specify what are your salary requirements, because you as a business, and I think in California they passed a law that you must post the salary spread. So if it's between $90,000 and $120,000 is the potential for what your salary could be.
Yeah, that makes sense.
Then you can apply, then you might apply or you might not apply if the salary doesn't make sense. But even this when we discuss this when we're looking to hire another editor and a shooter, I'm like, I would love to ask them what they would like their salary to be, because sure, I'd like to pay someone less than have to pay them more, but I'm just like, I just feel terrible wanting to ask that. And so I need to decide what is the rate. Just like when I'm trying to rent this place out, I have to pick a number per square foot that I feel comfortable with and not give them a range, or be like, well, what are you prepared to pay?
What are you looking for? Yeah.
Right. Like, for this person to ask me in an email, well, can you send me what you were paying so I can tell you if they're good or not? No, you send me your pricing and I'll tell you if it's good or not. So actually, I don't know if they emailed me back. They did email me back.
Wait, how did you respond?
I read back, please send me your best pricing. I know what I've paid in the past.
There you go.
I've done it blankly. I just got the pricing back. Pricing confirmed. They just confirmed the pricing. So I see what the price is, and I have to go back to them. Is it a lot more than what you paid before? No, it's not terrible.
Okay.
But I don't know if this includes the shirt. I don't know if that includes, or if that's just the printing. That's the confusing thing. Is I need to know things when it comes to shirts. What is the blank cost? And by blank isn't me cursing. That's the shirt blank. What is the printing on the front? White screen printing on the front, and my logo printed on the back.
So for those wondering, this is obviously for the Frono's Photo t-shirts. We're trying to find a new printer.
Yes, correct. It's not really finding a new printer. I love my local printer. Mm-hmm. My local printer I absolutely love, and I worked with them for a long time. It's just that we don't want to distribute the shirts.
Sure.
It takes a lot of effort and time, and it's not lucrative enough to do all of that on your own. So you have a company that fulfills them and can do the printing and can do the warehousing and can do the pulling and the packing, and you collect a paycheck. So the reason you've seen that store.fronosphoto.com is down is I'm switching stores. It didn't work out with the last store because they would front the money to print the shirts, and then it had to be recouped, meaning like a record company.
I was just going to say,
like a record deal, they spend the money up front and then they recoup it, all their expenses, before I ever get a cut.
So they're not printing on demand, right?
No, I refuse to do on demand because those shirts are shit.
Okay.
The quality of printing on demand doesn't.
I mean simply printing on demand, as in like I'm placing an order today, and that shirt's being printed today because I placed that order. No, and you're not pre-printing hundreds of shirts that might never get sold.
We pre-print hundreds of shirts.
Gotcha.
Because it's just a better quality product to do the screen printing that way.
Okay.
And so that didn't end up making sense. And I offered the new company, I'm like, look, going forward, I will pay up front for the cost of the product. And that way, money can always come. I need to get, I don't need to be recouped or anything. I will make my money back over time. They didn't want to do it because we weren't selling enough. So they connected me with someone else, and we're going through the process of shifting over the store to them. And now I need to get pricing from them. And I told them, look, I'll pay for the shirts up front. We'll just go back to that method, but I need to know how much it is. And I need to know if it makes sense for me.
Yeah.
So that's it. But that's a type of email, like in a business standpoint, and this even comes back to photography. That's why we're talking about it. Not that we talk about everything that's photography, because we get into other things. But asking someone, what were your pricing before, when you're trying to ascertain is the pricing good or not, is really stupid.
Well, they're trying to lowball you. Yeah.
I know what my pricing was, or highball you, but
or
I know what my
pricing
was from printing shirts. I know that the blanks cost me under $4 because I would get them directly from the distributor. Then they would drop ship it right to my printer. And then my printer would charge me for the flashing, the print on the front and the print on the back. And that's what I paid for. And our cost per shirt was pretty reasonable. That's why I always sold shirts at $15.
I was going to say, you didn't have a high markup for them.
No, I started out selling them for $11.99 day one. Then they went up a little bit. Then I left them at $14.99.
What was your profit on day one? What did an actual shirt cost you? $8, $7, all in?
Well, back in the day, it was $8 or $9 because
so you weren't even really making that much extra.
Not at the beginning, because I wasn't able to buy in bulk. But the more I sold, I was able to place an order for 200 shirts at a time instead of 40 or 50. And so as that happens, your per shirt cost goes down, your per printing cost goes down. That way I was able to make a profit. Plus I wasn't charging enough. Then I made it like $12.99, or then it stayed at $14.99 forever.
Yeah, I think I finally had a conversation with you, and I was like, we got to bump it up a little higher, man. I mean, t-shirts these days are at least $20.
Right, $20 to $25. So I just have to take into account what it's going to cost. So I think based off of the numbers they just sent me, if they're legitimate numbers, if they include printing on the front and the back, which I don't think it already does, I don't want to pay like their pricing. It's not that bad.
How much extra is printing on the back?
It's the same as printing on the front. Doesn't matter. If it's one dot, if it's literally a dot, a small dot, it costs the same as it does to print the full front.
And you haven't really done any other color changes besides white print, because it costs a lot more for color, right?
No, it doesn't cost that. It's the same cost. But what you have to remember is our shirts have super nice printings, thick. That's because they do what's called a flash. They pass one, and then they do another flashing on top. Then they do another print on top. So you can flash white, meaning you put white underneath, and then you do a color on top is going to make it stand out and be more vibrant. That's how it's been done in the past. So anyway, this is now T-shirt talk, and but no, this is good business stuff.
Yeah.
To be honest with you.
I'm still a big fan of the black on black stealth I Shoot Raw shirts. I think they're just so sexy looking. It's like a matte black finish.
Yeah, I don't like it because it doesn't stand out.
Well, I know you want people to see I Shoot Raw, but I think there's a lot of photographers out there that want to rock I Shoot Raw, but not in their throat in people's faces, especially because it could have a double meaning.
It has tons of meanings.
Yes.
Tons of meanings. Anyway, let's move on. I said on Photo News Fix we would talk about Pentax a little bit more.
Yes.
Because Pentax last year talked about making a film camera, a new film camera, and I was like, this is stupid, but whatever. If they can do it, like if there's a market for it and they can survive as a business and be a niche product, then I don't have a problem with it. But the development that they just announced is that their first camera is not going to be an SLR, but it's going to be a point and shoot with compact a lens that can't change. So it's a compact camera. Now,
did they announce what millimeter focal length is going to be fixed on there?
If I had to guess, it's going to be 35.
Yeah.
If I had to guess.
That's
now, I didn't see
24 maybe.
Maybe. But my whole thing here with film cameras is a point and shoot film camera makes absolutely no sense from the standpoint of taking pictures, because you're not doing anything with it. You're literally pressing a button and it's doing everything.
I agree.
Right? And then you're getting it developed, scanned, and then posted on TikTok or on Instagram, and that is just stupid. right? That's a waste. Now, if you tell me that you want to learn film because you missed the film era and you never got to experience what it was like to shoot on film, then by all means go buy a Pentax K1000, which I just picked up one at Allen's, or a Nikon FM, or a Nikon F, or a Canon A1, or any manual film camera.
And the thing about those cameras too, again, like if you didn't grow up in that era, if people love the beauty of those cameras, the beauty of the analog controls, you're one with the camera almost with the physical controls. So I think having a point and shoot where it's just simply like a press a button and you're done doesn't give you that that film experience at the end of the day.
It really doesn't. But if you have to manually control your camera, manually focus, stuff I never did because I was afraid to do it because I knew I wasn't going to be good at it because I didn't get it.
Same.
If you really want to experience film, that's what you do. And then if you really, really want to experience black and white, you start processing your own negatives and you find a local darkroom to allow you to go, or that you can rent and pay to go try and print. That I'm all for. I'm all for going back to figure out what it was like to photograph with film. Because it's an experience.
It's a total experience. And I still think like Nikon, for example, should release their ZFC, but in the film version, and also give it some actual metal controls instead of that flimsy plastic that the ZFC is made out of. Because it looks cool, but then you feel it and you're like, this feels like a piece of junk. And in Canon, why aren't they making the AE1 again at some point? Just make a film version of that. It's such a legendary camera.
Yeah, but Steven, I think the problem... Are you saying make it digital?
No. I'm saying just remake it today. Like almost retro it.
It's going to cost money to spin up.
Of course.
I think it's like the record industry. Everybody's like, oh, there were more records sold than CDs. No shit, assholes. Because no one wants to buy a CD when you got Spotify, and no one should buy records anyway because they sound stupid. They are stupid.
But at the end of the day, the point is it's almost like a collector's piece, and I think these film cameras are kind of like that too.
It's a niche product.
It's a very niche product.
There's not enough. They're not going to sell enough to make it worthwhile for them to do.
But then you have products like the V10, that Canon vlogging camera. It's like, that's a super niche product.
It is, but it's something that they might make a shit ton more money on because it has no mechanical parts in it. Mechanical parts are expensive. And with the Pentax thing, like, I get hipsters I don't even know what you call these kids. They're not hipsters because hipsters like Adam Lerner, but I don't know what you call these TikTok influencer kids that think that they're influencing the world, and they think taking photos with a point and shoot is so good and it's amazing and they need to scan it and put it on the computer. To me, that's just bullshit. You're just making a fashion statement. If you want to buy that Pentax, by all means, go and do it. But my moral of the story here about the whole Pentax thing is if you want to learn and you want to experience, then get a full manual camera and go and experience it. Don't do it because you think it looks so good. It looks so much better. No, because film does not look better. It just doesn't look better.
And there's got to be just a ton of old school cameras, used cameras on eBay that you can simply buy for like $100, and you can probably buy like an F1 for $100.
But you need to be careful because if they have, if their seals are bad, right? If the foam, seals
I would still make sure the condition is like new or something, But
so like Allen's will replace the foam seals. And so I bought a Pentax K1000. I did ask them to put me an A1 aside, and someone sold it when I was supposed to be getting it myself. So that was kind of bullshit. But go to a reputable place, pick up a film camera, and go shoot, and then enjoy it that way.
And you'll probably enjoy it for about 5 minutes and then go back to digital.
Yeah, because you'll realize, like,
how
people
hard
are
it is.
Jared, why don't you shoot film? Well, a couple of years ago, I went into a rehearsal space with a band, and I took my F5 and I shot a roll of film, and I also had my my D4 maybe at the time, and I took the roll of film and then I pulled out the D4 and I was like, well, I can shoot video, I can shoot stills, I can create more with this.
Instant gratification, seeing it right away. Yeah,
right. It was just a better tool for me, and so that's my take on the film thing. So, what do you guys think about Pentax and whatnot? I don't know how you can answer me that. Oh, you could text me. 313-710-9729. 313-710-9729. That's the way you do it.
We've been getting a ton of texts, by the way. Like, I can't even keep up anymore.
I go in and I look from time to time, as
I
you
do
know.
too.
And I send the birthday wishes every day.
I just feel like before it was like maybe you get 1 or 2 a day, if that. Now it seems like there's like 10 or more every day. And it's like, oh, it's a lot.
It's a lot. So you want to talk about user guides? Because we just put up the R8 user guide.
Yeah, so I also saw someone say, like, why you put out the R8 before the R6 Mark II? We did film both. It's just one is being edited now, the R6 Mark II. The reason we put the R8 out is because I think it's going to be a much bigger camera. It's a less expensive camera.
It's not a second generation camera.
Exactly.
Which, by the way,
look at the R6 regular user guide, and
those numbers aren't good.
Oh, really?
The regular R6 user guide, I don't think.
It's got to be over 200,000 if I had to guess.
You think?
We put that out, Canon, a year and a half ago,
R6
2 years?
R6 Jared Polin user guide. Oh, I'm wrong.
I was going to say.
No, it has 335,000.
Yeah, that's a good amount.
No. I think that wasn't it. It was some second release of a camera that I thought... They're not going to sell as many R6 Mark IIs as they sold of R6s, I don't believe.
I agree.
And so the second version, maybe it was a Z6 Mark II. Nikon didn't do as well as the Z6.
And look at the Z7 user guide. I think that didn't even hit 100,000 views.
That's what it was. And that's what I said yesterday. Is that tells you what about Nikon?
About how many were sold.
The Z7 user guide didn't sell a lot of those cameras because there's not a lot of views on that.
I mean, you look at the A7 III user guide, it's over 1 million views at this point, I mean, those guides are huge for us and for the viewer.
Stephen, that also goes to your reply to the person who said, well, why didn't you make an R3 user's guide?
Exactly. So I saw somebody comment on the R8 user guide and say, are you guys going to put out an R3 user guide? And I said, no, we don't typically do that on flagship professional bodies. And he's like, well, why? Actually, I can tell you exactly what he said. He said, why on earth not? That seems like a huge miss. I don't think that's a huge miss at all, because what's going to happen is, first of all, if you're buying an R3, I don't think you need a user guide to set up that camera. I don't think you should own that camera if you don't know how to properly set it up, because most likely you're coming from an R8, an R6 Mark II, an R5, whatever it may be, and you're graduating to the R3. Not many people can just jump to the R3 like that.
No, but I could still see, though, that people may want a little bit of guidance.
Sure,
but
I totally agree, especially if you're switching systems, going from like an A1 to an R3, and you don't really know how the focusing system works and how to set it up. Definitely agree that people would watch, or some people do need a beginner user guide to set up the camera. However, how many of those people exist?
Right.
It's going to be probably 10,000 views, maybe. There's not going to be that many. How many R3s are even sold?
Well, 10,000 roughly. Yeah. But even in that case, I think if we were to do an R3 user's guide, it would have to be, we would do like a 15-minute quick course free, and then be like, for the rest of the video, you got to buy it and download it. You got to pay for it.
Yeah,
if you really want it,
$6,500 or $6,000 on this camera, I'm sure you can afford a $10, $20 guide on how to properly set it up. Because the thing is, I don't know if people really understand how much time gets dedicated to a user guide, especially more recently when we're both a lot more detailed in explaining things.
Well, how long have they, what did they originally start as?
So in the R8, you hint back at the first time you did a user guide, which I think was the D3100 or D3000.
May have been a D3000.
Might have been a D3000. And you talk about how you used to be in your brother's room and recording the TV screen. I went back and actually found that original guide, and it's 14 minutes long, something like that. And it's the picture in picture is literally like the TV screen that you're filming, and it doesn't line up exactly to what you're saying because you filmed it after the fact. It's totally changed from what we do now versus then. Plus, the beauty of HDMI and having the ability to record it with the Atomos is a blessing, because it was a nightmare trying to do it back in the day with no HDMI output and recording your TV screen.
Yep. But they take a ton of time.
The R8, for example, is a hour 53 minutes?
2 hours.
It's about 2 hours long, and Dan just said that the R6 Mark II user guide, which he's editing right now, is over 2 hours. Over 2 hours for a single video. So it takes, even if we're just straight up multicamming, it takes certainly a week to edit one of those things. And we're not just cutting around everything. We're also adding like arrows and highlighting things and showing what exactly you're talking about in the live view mode and going through the entire queue menu.
Let me just say that the business reason for doing these is that when someone gets their new camera, they tend to search how to use that new camera. And if they discover our video primarily, early, they will watch it. They will then see the plugs that we do in there to get onto my email list, which is important for sales and business. They will see other promotions in there, and they will get familiarized with me, and then hopefully subscribe, and then become a fan. So we use it as a lost leader, basically.
It's probably a total introduction to you as well. It's probably, they're searching up videos on cameras for the first time and seeing you for the first time. So
yep.
I think it's very big. As little amount of views we get in the first week we release that, when we look back in a year or two, it's going to have close to 500,000 views probably. Well worth it.
It's always the lower end cameras that get more.
Yep. The beginner entry level cameras, the A7 III has over 1 million views at this point. The D5600 I think had 500,000. All of those high end APS-C cameras, low end. I think the Canon RP even has like 500,000 views.
It does. There's lots. So let's move into the last story here that was shared that a YouTuber has over $100,000 worth of camera gear stolen from their studio.
It's my nightmare, man.
It was Cinecom's founder Jordy Vandepup.
And I watch Cinecom a lot too.
You do? I've never heard of them.
They're video centric. Yeah, they do a lot of editing tutorials, stuff like that. Really, really cool guys.
So did you watch what happened?
I did.
So I think what they showed is someone using a crowbar and pulling their door back and then getting inside, using tubs to fill it with computers, all their camera gear. They took their red camera, they took their lenses, they took everything. Now, I don't know if they had a security system or not. I don't know if they had a cage. I mean,
they clearly have cameras, so I assume they had a security system as well.
Yeah, I mean, cameras are kind of not even a preventative thing. I remember when I was
at the end of the day.
But is it a deterrent? Like because most people don't know cameras are there. My thing was when we were having cameras put on the outside of the factory.
I want them to see it. Yeah.
I wanted blinking red lights.
Yep.
And my person installing them says nobody does that. They want it not to be seen. I'm like, I want it to be seen.
Exactly.
I want a red light blinking that says, fuck you, asshole. Go to the next fucking place, you fucking fuckity fuck.
All of my security Nest cameras around the house, I made sure that they are out in the open and you can easily see them from the sidewalk or the street. I did not try and hide them at all.
This is definitely one of those things that is a fear for all of us.
Of course.
It's not just like we have insurance.
There's also footage of them like stealing all their hard drives and computers. I couldn't imagine. I mean, thankfully we have 95% of our stuff in the cloud on Dropbox archived. So, God forbid something gets stolen or die, most of it's already up there in the cloud. But it still scares me for any current projects or like I'm thinking of like the Bernie documentary, which I would from time to time go back to and edit for like a week or so and then go back to normal YouTube videos and then back to it. I couldn't imagine if I lost that, for example, if someone stole that drive or if it got corrupt or what. I did have backups, but it was never like the most up-to-date backup. There's definitely times where I'd be like, oh, I forgot to duplicate that project file and put it on Dropbox to be safe,
This is one of those things that you have to try and think and take precautions. One of the reasons I say don't have vanity license plates that say you're a photographer, don't advertise on your car that you're a photographer, because you're just asking people to potentially break in. We've taken lots of precautions. We plan on taking even more precautions when we get into another studio. We're not going to say what they are, but Steven and I had this discussion and he had one suggestion for where to put it, and I explained why I don't want to put the stuff there, and it just makes more sense to put it where we're thinking of putting it. And I'm going to be very vague about where we're doing all of this.
And at the factory too, anytime someone asks like, oh, what do you guys do in that building? What do you guys do? We never reveal what we actually do.
It's an office.
It's an office at the end of the day.
And people look at you weird, like, well, what does that even mean? I'm like, it's an office. I sell insurance.
Yeah. What's the most boring job you could think of?
We sell insurance.
Sells insurance.
Yeah, we sell insurance. We got nothing in here.
Nothing valuable at all.
Nothing at all. You can't buy any heroin with what's in here.
But I will say at the end of the day, to keep it vague, it pretty much is Fort Knox at the factory, so don't try.
That's the plan. It's not about having cameras, because we have the cameras, but that doesn't get you your stuff back because you don't know those people. But if someone does take my A1, maybe it has a tracking device in it.
Ooh, and we might have done a video on that if you want to search it up.
Yeah. You just got to be careful. You got to think about making it as difficult as possible and have as many deterrents and protections and safeguards, like, we got glass breaks. If it's funny, I have glass breaks on my windows at my house.
I have glass break sensors too, yeah.
I was watching the Sopranos movie when that came out, and I've set my alarm to stay when I'm home so that if you're inside, it doesn't, the motion detectors don't go off. Well, there was a scene where someone got shot and they fell backwards into plate glass windows. I so happen to have a 9.1 surround sound system, like a Lamborghini. It's really good. And it heard the glass break, and instantly my system
went off,
triggered. Because
it's a glass break sensor that goes off the frequency of glass breaking, correct?
Yeah. The sound.
That's what I have too.
And so my alarm went off, and I was like, oh shit. So now I try not to watch movies with the alarm on.
That's funny.
Because it triggered it.
So you have your alarm system on even when you're home at all times, pretty much?
Well, no, I don't. No, it's at night and before I go to bed.
Same. I do the same, yeah.
Like if I come in and I know I'm in for the night, I'll just hit tap stay.
Yeah.
And then it just is what it is. But other than that, I just have to make sure that I have it off when it comes to watching movies where there's potential glass breaks. But the moral of the story is safety, protection, as many protocols. You're not going to get through our front door. You're not getting through the front door because magnetic locks would take like 50,000 pounds or 5,000 pounds. You need to drive a fucking truck through it to do it. That's that. It sucks that this happened.
It's a shame. Yeah. And it seems like they probably did try to obviously prevent it from happening. I'm sure, again, they had a security system of some sort. But again, at the end of the day, if they really want to break in, they're getting in no matter what.
I remember one of the stores in local here, someone cut through the ceiling, the roof.
Oh, like Mission Impossible style?
Yeah, they cut through the roof and went in.
Wow.
Yep. So hopefully their insurance covers what they had and they can get back up and running quickly. You just hope that's there. You got to take all the precautions possible to make sure that if something does happen, you are protected.
And Jordy, the founder of Cinecom, who did the actual video revealing that they got robbed, he did it on his phone, because that's all he had left. They took every camera they had.
Well, they probably left the Pentax.
But the iPhone's better, so we use that.
Yeah, they probably left it.
That's great.
Anything else you want to say before we get out of here?
No, I think that's it.
Yeah, man. So go watch Air. Yes. I do recommend that you go give it a watch. Give us a text, 313-710-9729. Give us some feedback. Anything you want to say, you can say it to us. Steven always tells you to go leave us a nice review on Spotify or on iTunes.
Written review if you
Apple
can.
Podcasts.
By the way, back to Air. I will say, I just started watching Silo on Apple TV Plus, whatever it's called. Have you watched this yet?
No, what's that?
Really interesting stuff. It's basically this group of people that live in an underground silo bunker, and they've been living there for like 100 years or something like that. And they don't really know the history of it because a lot of the relics from back in the day got burned from like a civil war that happened inside the silo.
That's interesting. That's new?
It's brand new. It's only 3 episodes in so far. And now there are people trying to get out of the silo to see if, like, for example, they have windows in the silo, but it seems like they're projections of an outside world that looks like it was, blown up and destroyed.
So if that's true or not.
But I don't think it's really, it's more of a projection, and they're trying to keep people inside instead of leaving the silo.
Very similar to a movie, a series called The 100.
Yes, exactly. Yeah.
So I liked The 100 for the first 2 seasons.
I stopped after that. Yeah.
And they were the first season was fantastic. Second season, really good. Very hot women. Really liked that. Third season, actor, okay. Yeah. Third season, okay. But then it goes on for like 7 or 8 seasons. They actually, after one of the seasons, 4 or 5, they actually had a wrap point. They actually wrapped it perfectly in a bow. I thought it was great.
And then they brought it back.
It's based off of a book. I thought The 100 was a really good watch. My brother just started watching Altered Carbon because I've been telling him that for years, and he finally is sitting down to watch it because I think that is one of the most incredible series season 1 I've ever seen. All right, let's wrap it up. I got shit to do, like lunch, and go pick up my Lamborghini. Thank you guys very much for listening. Jared Polin, FronosPhoto.com. See ya.
Bye.